Welcome back to Tribe Talks with ArcherPoint Retail. Today, our retail experts, Kayla Magnan and Thomas Nielsen, will discuss how retailers can maximize profits by improving warehouse operations and how you can create a well-oiled machine in your warehouse. So let's begin. Kayla, over to you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Hi, everyone. While it may be obvious that a retailer's shipping and receiving processes are critical components to the warehouse management, those areas can also significantly impact your bottom line. And before we get into our session details today, we have a few polls to shed some light into the impact of these warehouse operations. So Suzanne, if you put the first poll on, it is a select one. So on average, how much of a retailer's budget consists of warehouse labor? And this can be based on your experience or just in general, what you think an average retailer budget consists of. So less than half, about half, more than half, and almost all of the budget. Which do you think a retailer's budget consists of warehouse labor? And the answer is actually 65% of the average warehouse operating budget consists of labor. And we have a second poll that follows that one that talks about which process is the most labor intensive. So on average, again, your experience or just in general, what is the most labor intensive process in retail operations? And we have the typical receiving, inspect and put away, pick and pack, returns, and the inventory reviews and audits. And across the board, there's different responses, but on average, approximately 60% of the labor costs involve the order picking process. And then lastly, our third poll, which is pretty shocking, how much time is spent a year on unnecessary warehouse activities? 24 hours a day, 10 days, 1 month, and over 1 month. And again, on your experience or in general, how much time does an average retailer spend on unnecessary warehouse activities? And any one of those is pretty shocking, but actually it's over 1 month. It's nearly 7 weeks is wasted a year on unnecessary warehouse activities. So Thomas, let's dive right in. Those statistics completely eye-opening, especially that last one I mentioned, 7 weeks of warehouse labor wasted. So now with how this year has navigated us, do you think consumer behavior plays a part or even may change how a retailer warehouses, not just with those safety protocol measures?
Yeah, so hi Suzanne, hi Kayla, hi everyone. As you can see, I'm back in our office in New York City. So back to you, Kayla. To answer your question, absolutely. Even before this year's madness, the crazy 2020 we all talk about, we had shifted our buying patterns and behaviors. We were all starting to buy more online, and this has been reducing the actual need for physical store space. We all heard about the rumor that the in-store retail was dying, but we are still using these locations to fulfill orders, online order demands or replenish other stores. And now we refer to these locations as dark stores. But another example is curbside pickup and deliveries, options that was available and consumers wanted it prior to the COVID. But this pandemic has just increased the demand and accelerated the retailers' adoptions. But Kayla, I think there's another big challenge here that consumers has tested the retailers on in warehousing, and it is more the customized products. They want products unique to them, and the retailers are already doing this by either making the product at the time of receiving the order or payment, or hope they can predict the unique demand. So Kayla, in my mind, consumers' behavior has and will always have an impact on how the retailers do their warehouse operation.
And I'm sure there have been some pretty creative ways to tackle that increase in online buying or ability to add curbside, but it must be a challenge to predict customized product demand. But then again, take, for example, the fashion industry. A variety of customized products can be successfully merchandised. The key being, I think, an understanding of the targeted consumer and then having unified business data. Just thinking about some of the general warehouse impact. Did you receive it on time? Was it damaged? Does it match the purchase order? Do you have enough staff? Are they properly trained? Do you have the right materials? The list almost seems endless. And where there are some inconsistencies in the warehouse, it not only impacts the other business areas, but it increases your costs operationally and also your cost per item. Thomas, are we able to take kind of a general approach discussing warehousing?
Yeah, I think so. So let's imagine a common warehouse process. A typical steps the goods would take through the organization or through the warehouse. So naturally, we would like to start with receiving, meaning that is the shipment of the merchandise to your location. Most retailers have dedicated an area for this activity to take place. So what we always recommend, Kayla, when we get on site is to ensure this area is clean and organized and well maintained at all times. Now, again, it depending of your type of stock, it may be beneficial for you to just a couple of days before you receive the shipment is to rotate any current warehouse stock you have. This will help your newest goods always rotating and will keep track of your inventory on hand. You also, if you're doing that, you notice any dead stock, or you would maybe even notice any storage constraints you may have.
Now, do you think retailers should schedule additional staff for that pre-shipment stock rotation or even the day of shipments? I do have experience from both sides, but it's always good to know a specialist suggestion.
Now that would depend on your business and most likely what time of the year it is. In some cases, it may make sense to hire some part-time workers for some of those processes. However, maybe your staff is already extremely efficient during the down periods of the day. And the same pattern goes for the shipment. Some businesses include extra staff on the day of shipment to have dedicated workers to ensure accurate inventory processing, while other dedicate workers to focus on the customer service aspect. It all depends what is right for you and your business.
And my experience was both of those. One retailer had staff tasked with both deliveries and customer service, and the other retailer had dedicated staff for each task. So now the product is received, we'll typically inspect it to ensure it meets our agreement terms and the items are in good condition, right?
Right. And to mention just some of these processes can be done together in the same area and almost at the same time. And again, it depends on your business requirements. These are just some of the basic steps from the goods received to the goods delivered to the customer. And some tips to optimize these processes to reduce the operational cost. Where some retailers have deliveries inspected at the sign-off on receipt, other retailers have a separate inspection process. But it's our recommendation, Kayla, and we always mention this to our customers and retailers, that always document the discrepancies and notify the vendor immediately of any inconsistencies or unmet terms. This will then allow the staff to prepare the items for the put away.
And this put away part, I'm thinking this is where automation, robotics start coming into action in the warehouse. Is that what you're seeing in the field?
Yeah, we've seen not only our own customers, but large retailers take advantage of this, the speed and efficiency of robotics and automation in the put away and picking activities in their own warehouses. And the most notable is probably Amazon out there. They have been the largest warehouse disruptor in the retail sector. But I don't want any of our listener here or the participant to be worried, or our retailers to be worried about Amazon here. There is no need to be concerned. Most of our retailers should actually consider leveraging their services. For example, when you're selling on Amazon and use their fulfillment by Amazon services, then your products are sold through the channel. It's not only processed, it's shipped. And if there should be any customer services needed for those orders, this is all handled by Amazon, not your staff, not your employees. And even just take Amazon's locker location concept. Maybe it would make more sense for your business to install a locker pickup location. But Kayla, if we're just talking put away for the central warehouse or your store location, I especially think labels and barcodes with a focus on simplicity and unification. So some of the questions that comes to mind is, do you need to organize new price tag and update the barcode SKU? Or maybe you should have a standard area on each item for labels and tags, so the staff will always know where to mark the item. It has dual benefits. It also helps the sales floor and even the point of checkout, where the staff will also know where to find the tagging details.
I actually remember a full day's training segment from when I was a sales associate. We'd receive the merchandise and then have to put security tags and product tags on each item. The shirts had a certain area, pants had another. Each item had go-to spots, not only for security tags and price tag, but also sales stickers were located directly over the previous price. Everything had its own spot. So just as you mentioned, The point of checkout was quick, but also assistance on the sales floor was quick because we knew where to look for the components. But bringing it back to the warehouse before the item even gets to that store level or purchasing point, what about the warehouse put away location of the item? Is there more to it than just find a warehouse aisle and put it on the shelf? Maybe we'll take it a step further and place it on the shelf in a certain order.
Well, again, I would say it depends on the type of the business and your merchandise. But I still want you to think simplicity and unification. Wherever you've seen retailers reap more benefits from installing one-way aisles versus the overhaul of robotics and machinery installation, these one-way aisle can access item on either side. It increases your picking capabilities, but it also reduces your staff interaction. And if you are using lift equipment to access the higher shelf, retailers are reporting less coalition in these one-way aisles warehouses. For the shelving, it is really going to depend on the item. We all know that some items have expiration dates that requires rotation. Many fashion items moves with the seasons and so forth. But I think an important piece here, Kayla, is to not forget your categorization. Keep it in line with your current item group structure. Here, though, we can consider some technology to optimize the pick routes. And take it a step further and use advanced features to help you map out your warehouse. We suggest you use this before opening a new warehouse or enhancing your current space. A route picking feature would be used to guide your staff around the warehouse to pick the items in the most cost-effective direction. And Kayla, what did the poll say earlier? I think it was around 60% of retailers' warehouse labor costs are in the picking process. And here I would say that's more common than not due to the manual labor, manual searching work, which could be due to obviously a number of reasons: lack of technology, inconsistent procedures, storage constraints, and efficient layout, just to mention a few.
With my experience in these activities, they were all from a store level. So I'd say I only have very light warehouse interaction, but it's very clear to see the pressure for quick processing, but yet gentle handling. So Thomas, how do retailers encourage the warehouse staff to continue following those standard procedures?
That's a good question. And what we are seeing is it's actually becoming an area where not only our retailers, but the industry is getting super creative. Some of our retailers hold internal meetings with vital warehouse workers, and they evaluate the processes, and everybody provide insight into process improvements and where these improvements can be made. Other retailers are adopting staff performance bonuses. And remember, I always say this when I'm on site, is remember the power behind the KPIs is your staff, your employees. Make it easy for your employees to share their ideas. And fun if you're offering performance bonuses. We suggest that you get creative here, offer internal discounts, maybe offer extra PTO, and maybe even an increase to the next quarter's pay if you have met some goals that was set for the previous quarter. This should increase your merchandising, ordering, production ability while ensuring consistent quality and item care, while it also benefiting your staff with fun and with bonuses, of course.
So just as we're familiar with sales staff being incentivized with sales-based bonuses, why not the same for your other essential and valuable staff? Makes complete sense. Now, we know we need manpower in our business, but with how advanced our processes have evolved, would you say that these tools we've been talking about are typical features found in any warehouse solution?
Yeah, good question. Well, I would say that depend on what features you require and how much of those features you require automated. But take, for example, Microsoft Dynamics D365 Business Central. There are several warehouse management capabilities found within the standard solution. And of course, we have the optional add-on products to enhance those standard capabilities. But within Business Central, you find a feature called workflows. These standard workflows in the system helps or support the physical handling of items on a zone and on a bin level. Then if you need more than what's there, it can be handled by either customization or an add-on product to get even greater depth of the warehouse features you may need. And with a quick discovery session, we can uncover which feature set would be required or what advancement we should explore further.
And while we're talking about some advanced technologies, we did mention warehouse layout and route picking. But what about with physically picking the items? Are you seeing retailers adopt any robotics, machinery, or other intelligence to help with sorting the items in the warehouse?
Yeah, and I feel like I'm almost sounding like a broken record here, Kayla, and I don't mean to, but a lot of these steps do get specific to your industry, especially in the sense of some of these retailer organizations can easily fund and install these machines that enhance your processes. But many retailers and many of our retailers only have human power, maybe some software and very limited hardware controlling the output. But we mentioned reducing the aisle size for one-way traffic, and that's a much easier solution than remapping a warehouse design or looking into installing machinery. So, like we mentioned in a couple of other Tribe Talk webinars, it's our recommendation that you review your current landscape. What do you have that you can reuse? Or what do you have that you can redesign? And if there is any investment to be made, I would encourage you here strongly, think mobile technology. Please think mobile technology. Reports have found that the use of mobile technology can help reduce errors up to 70% when we compare to the manual only methods. And here I would suggest also that we check with the IT specification of your software before making any hardware purchases. And why am I saying that? Because many of your tablets and handheld devices like smartphones can easily be used in the warehouse to optimize your order picking process. In addition to that, many of the application provide capabilities that can leverage the native device features like, how we all have seen it with the cameras that can scan a barcode or take a picture and so on. There's even some specific manufacturers out in the market that build these all-in-one handhelds, not only for label printing and for barcode scanning, but for picture capturing as well. And these devices are very doable for any warehouse setting. And we all know a warehouse can be full of dust, dirt, liquid, it can be in a cold area, hot area, and so on. But these, and in addition, the last thing I want to say about these devices, they are not that bulky. They're actually very sleek, and these devices are super nice looking actually and very user friendly.
And I'm thinking with more mobile technology in your operations, that could actually help with hiring. We know our workforce is becoming more and more integrated with a demographic that seems to not know a life without these handheld devices. So maybe using these devices could be an easier adoption, but also just show your business understands the importance of modern technology. Okay, so we've received the item, inspected it, put it away, we're briefing on picking. I would think the next mark to shipping or mark to the store floor dictates some of these following procedures.
Yeah, for sure. And again, having dedicated work areas for these tasks can help simplify processes and maintain consistency. Because if we are shipping an item to a customer, there should be a focus on how the customer will receive this item, the experience. It's all about the customer experience here. And on the other hand, if we're sending the item to another store, it's the store's worries now about how the customers receive this item. Well, in this case, we just have to send the items to a particular store. Though for your warehouse optimization, the focus is on the packaging. Too much material inflates the cost of shipping. Too little can damage the product, leading to returns and maybe frustrated customers, bad reputation, bad reviews, and maybe even loss of sales. But then also think about the time of the year, holidays, and any other major sales spikes where being out of packaging materials can be a disaster and could be a result of a delayed delivery. And not to mention, just here in general, many of these paper products we use for packaging are most cost-effective bought in bulk.
And we mentioned the customer experience and the importance of that a few Tribe Talks ago, but I think now more than ever, we're looking for experience with shopping, especially since many of us aren't experiencing that normal in-store shopping trip. The unboxing is the brand experience outside of the store. Just think of all the personal uploaded videos on social media with the hashtag unboxing. And I can speak on this personally. I used to be part of a subscription club. Each month we had a unique theme that would encompass the entire box, from interior design and color to the individual items inside. It was such a rush to get the box each month. We'd slowly open it to expose the details inside, and every time we were so excited. But take it from the other side, from a poor unboxing experience. I recently shared with you, Thomas, my shoe accident. And even though this example wasn't necessarily the unboxing that disappointed us, it was a great initial unboxing experience. It wasn't your typical shoe box. It was this pristine gloss white box that slid open, so it wasn't your traditional shoe box and lid. But our completely different wow factor was seeing the shoes inside and shocked that they looked nothing like what we ordered. But there's still a positive takeaway because the customer service process was simple and now we're all settled. The response was quick, resolution was fair, and we received a replacement pair earlier this week. So even negative unboxing experiences can still yield positive customer feedback with how that service handles the mishap.
Exactly, Kayla, and this is so important for everybody to understand. It's not the issue that leaves the imprint. It's the way the brand, the manufacturer, the retailer handles it that the customer remembers. We all know that anything can happen between an order and delivery, but of course the customer still has expectations. Like we would have certain amount of expectation if we went into a store, we would have some set of expectation if we ordered in store. The same with online and deliveries. We have our own set of customer expectations there. But the unboxing is always the surprise. Retailers ship each item differently now, and now we're seeing the whole industry is getting more creative in the way they are packaging and shipping your product. And there's still a slight element of what is in the box, that curiosity, what is in there. And as you experienced, somewhere between the order and the delivery, there was a disconnect. But sometimes it's not always like your example, Kayla, where the orders was picked and packed inaccurately, but there's also something to be considered for the shipping aspect of things.
And I imagine we'd have to consider if you're using your own internal fleet of drivers or if you're using third-party carriers like FedEx, UPS, or even more local ones. But are there some general things we can consider with shipping?
Yeah, I would say that it differs greatly if you have your own trucks or using 3PLs. But if you're using third parties, as obvious as it may sound, compare the rates. Compare the rates, read the fine detail. There's not only tools built into solution to provide you this information, but there is websites out there, and many of them, to help you and analyze and compare the pros and cons for not only one carrier, but most of the carriers in the market. And remember again what I mentioned before with the packing of the items. Too little would damage your product or could damage your product, okay, in the transit, which could result in returns, frustrated customers, and so on. But too much can inflate the shipping cost. And again, if it's going to the end consumer or to a store, that will definitely help you dictate what shipping material that's most suitable for you. And just another little quick note here, Kayla, on the end here. On the materials, if you're using a third-party carriers, please see what their packing supply costs are. Sometimes carriers add fees to unauthorized boxes.
And while that leads me to another consideration with packaging and its relation to experience, just a quick comment to that delivery point. I think communication is key here from retailers, regardless of what carrier is being used for delivery. Delays and back orders may be unavoidable at times, but if a retailer just shares that information with me, I'm more likely to reshop with them because they simply let me know what's going on with my order before I even questioned it. I've had order experiences where I had to reach out to the retailer inquiring about my package status only after the expected delivery date has passed. But going back to packaging, there's a big shift to green-friendly products. Earlier this year at the National Retail Federation's Big Show in January, there were several topics talking about the impact of waste and reductions needed to consumer packaged goods. So when speaking of consumer experience with packaging, for example, maybe replace packaging peanuts with crinkle paper or other recyclable material. And again, speaking from a personal experience, a lot of my online orders are delivered to my house in boxes that I can reuse to send other packages in, or even in case of a return, their instructions even say, send item back in the original box.
Yeah, here, Kayla, it's important here because the natural reaction may be to think, oh, we're done with the warehousing here for this item now when the customer has the product in their hands. But that is wrong because what you just mentioned there, Kayla, was the possibility of a return, which is another process in warehousing retailers should consider the impact of. First, you can provide the option to return the item to your stores or have them send it directly back to the warehouses. Some retailers won't even handle the returns in-house and use third-party service solutions or services to take care of this process. Now think about this. they eliminate all direct costs associated with hiring customer service reps and any costs related to reshipping the item back to the warehouse, inspecting it, putting it back on the shelf, labeling, and so on.
Now, would where the items be ordered from within the retailer make a difference in any case? Meaning, is there a better practice in having the store order their own goods versus the head office team making that decision?
While a lot of things, again, I think I'm coming back to that, while a lot of things do depend on your business, meaning the type of merchandise, the type of year, the calendar year, and so on, it's always wise to have another pair of eyes on things. Your staff know the location the best and can help provide insight into why some patterns or spikes occur. And with a product system, you can set it up so all items are reviewed by the home office before ordered. Or maybe you only want certain items to need approval because of the exclusivity or the value of the item. And while it may seem like a no-brainer, review the full inventory details when you review the replenishment calculations. In this review, look for out of stock, overstocked item in certain location or in all locations, what stock is on hand, and review what items have taken up a lot of usable space and have been there far too long. So identify dead stock, and this will help ensuring the items are moving in and out of the warehouse and your inventory is accurate and efficient, and most important, it is managed.
And although we did talk about reporting in another Tribe Talk, here's another perfect reason why having some common KPIs are so important. There's many fantastic tools to help provide live and interactive reports, but we mentioned Power BI as an excellent intelligent reporting tool for the entire Microsoft ecosystem. The application already has tons of out-of-the-box reports and dashboards, and some even developed by Microsoft ISVs like Ellis Retail. As an example, they have their own common retail reports and dashboards that work directly with the data from within Ellis Nav or Ellis Central. It's ready to analyze your item's average day to sell, the return rate, or just to find patterns like certain age groups more interested in this item to better market and sell to those specific consumer groups.
Yeah, but don't think that this is a feature or solution only for your LS Nav or for LS Central system. Or don't even limit it to the Microsoft ecosystem, which is including all the ISVs out there. Remember, you can connect your Power BI to any external applications too. Maybe you want to see weather forecasts, upcoming local events, sporting events, or competitions, or information from another data source like a competitor price tracking tool. The end goal here is to turn all your required data sources into immersive and interactive and actionable insights.
So not to get us too far into another Power BI and reporting discussion, let's recap some of those warehouse processes we discussed to ensure we covered the basics. So we started with the typical first step, receiving the item, then we inspect it and put it away. Once the item was ordered, it was packed, and then there's a possibility of return, but we always keep that replenishment running full cycle and take a review of the inventory from the on-hand count to those calculations. So Thomas, what other considerations do you think we're missing here?
Well, Kayla, at this stage, you can probably guess what I'm going to start saying here, but for more specific, it actually does depend on the industry. Although in general, we could consider some additional topics on some of the points we have already talked about today. For example, overall, think of your facility costs. There's been many conversation out on the market about, hey, are we going to do renovating versus relocating, installing pickup lockers, or using third-party services? All of these will impact the cost of your warehousing, but on very different levels. With the renovating, we are not only considering the cost to expand or improve the building, but also what impact at your employees, the labor force. Is there any days that the facilities need to be shut down? Will it slow down the order processes and so on? That is things we encourage you to think about. So maybe relocating would be a more cost-effective approach. Or the area within your warehouse for consumer shipping is overflowing with orders to go out, and integrating a pickup locker would offer more space in the warehouse and more pickup times for the customers. Also, many of our retailers analyze workers' performance. If they're trying to identify top performers in each step and process. whatever suits you and your business. So let me ask you, Kayla, you mentioned earlier, a little bit earlier in the Tribe Talk, that you had experience with 2 retailers with tagging and checkout. One thing I'm interested in knowing is, were your responsibility dedicated to each task, and how did these retailer processes differ?
Well, they did have similar processes, but as you've mentioned, they were differences based on some specifics to that business. Now, one brand had separate duties for the day, so you were either on the sales floor or back in the stock room, mostly just depending on the days you received shipment. But if you're in the back stock room, this brand had a dedicated area, all of your supplies were in an arm's length away, and the retailer was the one I previously mentioned that you were trained on where to put security tags on shirts, pants, dresses, accessories. Everything had its own spot. So the process was easy. Take all the items out of their packaging, line them up by size or however they were going to be displayed, hang, tag, fold, repeat. And with the other retail brand, we were required to do both tasks, sales floor and receive and process the delivery. On many occasions, it was even during a solo shift, so there could be a handful of customers in the store. But this retailer also outlined expectations of when the delivery should be fully put away. So I had to focus on the shipment more than the shoppers. And my job turned from being customer centric, as I remember my training here was strictly focused on helping the customer and upselling. But in reality, especially on those shipment days, you were an inventory processor that could use the point of sale. Unfortunately, a lot of the times that resulted in customers having a poor experience, or the worst case scenario, when thefts would occur. And since there was never a how-to on tags, each associate marked items in different spots, resulting in making shopping confusing and then that checkout process much longer. And I'm trying not to outline that one way is better than the other, but it's pretty obvious which retailer in my example had some less headaches. And I'd say the highlight here is to have that open communication with your associates and improve that process based on their feedback.
Yeah, and there are many retailers, Kayla, that have a dedicated management or supervisors that's responsible for a area or for specific areas. So depending on your business, maybe it would be better for your team to adopt what we call supervisor zones, and where the staff member is responsible for those items replenishment. But as you all know, I always like to keep cost in mind. So keep your labor cost in mind, the cost per hour. Dedicated employees mean more labor first on the clock. And but it could also mean, or potentially mean, more sales revenue. The question is, and this is probably the most obvious question, will the revenue be higher than the cost of coverage? Maybe even take it all the way to identify each staff in your different areas and processes. And for example, have a low cost equal low output versus high cost equal high output performance labels to identify all of your staff that's scheduled with the most efficient and effective actions.
And you could even use those labels or KPIs not only to track the performance, but provide data for that performance program we mentioned earlier. Then retailers can also easily shift a worker and measure their output. Now, I'm sure we could create a whole series on warehousing, but for now, we strongly encourage everyone to just schedule a time with us to discuss your current processes. Together, we can see how to develop more accurate and cost-effective methods for managing your warehouse operations. We thank you all for joining us today, and we're going to hand it back over to Suzanne, who's going to close us out.
Thank you both so much. What a great information-packed session. I also want to encourage everybody to follow us on social or check out our website. We have some great blogs coming out within the next month around cycle counting and how to make sure your picking is set up most efficiently. So don't forget to also register for our next Tribe Talk by visiting ArcherPoint.com. Go to our events page under resources. Thanks so much for joining us today. I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon or evening. Take care.
Thanks for watching this ArcherPoint video. If you found it helpful, make sure to check out our website and blog at www.archerpoint.com. Additionally, if you have any questions regarding our products, services, or information in this video, feel free to email us at info@archerpoint.com. Thanks.